Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, January 12th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, high 42. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 32. And then Tuesday, sunshine, a little warmer, high 46. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 29 and clear in Pomona up in Rockland County, 32 and clear in Middletown in New Jersey, and it's 30 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
Thousands of New York City nurses are walking off the job this morning. The Fed chair says accusations lobbed his way are totally untrue. A Weehawken family hoping you've seen their teenage son. An animal rescue group was rescuing rats on Long Island. And it may be time to take away an 80-year-old woman's driver's license. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Thousands of nurses across New York City going to go on strike in about 59 minutes from now after no agreement been reached amid this ongoing contract negotiations. Their contract expired back on December 31st. Over 16,000 nurses walking off. It'll be the largest nurses strike in city history. At least that's according to the Nurses Union. The New York State Nurses Association confirmed they're walking out of Mount Sinai, Montefiore, and New York Presbyterian hospitals and will walk the picket line beginning at 6 a.m.
Striking is always a last resort, but greedy hospital management at wealthy private hospital have given frontline nurses no other choice.
That's the head of the union. The union says it wants higher pay, safer working conditions. That's some of the demands.
We are willing to negotiate on salaries. They have failed to deliver meaningful counter-proposal and are still threatening healthcare cuts for frontline nurses.
Now, the union claims they wanted to meet at the negotiation table over the weekend, and not much took place, and that's why they're walking out today. Mayor Mamdani releasing a statement late last night saying the safety, well-being of the city is his top priority, and he wants to ensure New Yorkers have care that they critically need. So the city's emergency management team is going to work with these hospitals to make sure they can move some of the more sick patients out to other hospitals where they will get care. And so some of the reason these nurses say they're also walking out is for their safety, and they point to a number of attacks that have taken place inside hospitals over the last year. There was just one, you'll remember, just last week at Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. The patient broke open a piece of a toilet on the hospital room in his room, and he attacked a couple patients. They shot him dead. So that's some of the issue, is safety issues as well. Here's more from the head of the union.
Patients should not delay going to the hospital if they need care while we are on strike. Going into the hospital to get care you need is not crossing a strike line.
Now, Mount Sinai Hospital sending us a statement early this morning saying they are prepared for the strike that they say could last an indefinite amount of time. They've taken every step, they say, to best support their patients and employees. They said they didn't want this to happen, but apparently it's going to. Now, the nurses, there were going to be more hospitals involved in this, but some of the union made deals with 3 Northwell hospitals on Long Island. They reached an agreement to avert a strike. It was more than a week ago. But this one going to happen 57 minutes from now. Those nurses are going to walk off the job, those three big hospitals here in the city. Last night, a man stabbed near Times Square. He was stabbed in the leg. It took place right near Broadway and 40th Street. It was about 8 o'clock last night. Police tell us it was some sort of heated argument and don't know what it was all about. The attacker, he got away, dressed in black with gray sneakers, took off from the scene. Police say they have made no arrests. Over in New Jersey, boy, was it an intense day in East Orange yesterday. Dozens of people injured after a fire ripped through an apartment building there, broke out in an apartment building on Washington Street. When firefighters arrived at the scene, they encountered really heavy smoke and fire on the first floor of the building. Video shows firefighters on the scene with this thick gray smoke billowing from the building's windows. People who were inside the building say it was incredibly frightening.
The sixth floor right up there, I saw a little boy sticking his head out the window.
I had a damp cloth over my face.
Thankfully, they broke every single window, so we were able to see, but it was just blackness, your heads down and everybody was just rushing out.
At least 36 people taken to area hospitals for treatment, including 2 firefighters who suffered minor injuries. Some tenants thought they could stay in their units on the lower floors of the building when this fire broke out, and then, of course, found out the hard way that they needed to get out.
It was a little bit tough, yeah, because it was only me and the nurse, and I have a little baby too. 2 months old.
It was nothing but black smoke, so I closed the door back. I said, maybe we better stay put. They started taking out the window, and they started having problems. So they said they might have to take her through the steps, even though it was a lot of smoke. And that turned into a major project.
The East Orange fire chief says crews made several rescues from windows with the help of mutual aid companies who came to assist. The fire was pretty quickly put under control. Now, here's what the neighbors say, and this is true. This is really just horrible. They say they saw a woman light a fire in the basement of this building and then light another fire on the top floor of the building. Now, the East Orange fire officials are not saying anything about determining the cause of the fire, but that's what neighbors are saying. Meanwhile, the Red Cross is helping those families who have been displaced. Police arrested a 17-year-old in the fatal slashing of a teenager in Queens on Friday. The 17-year-old boy charged with murder, criminal possession of a weapon in connection to this slashing. The entire slashing, by the way, caught by cameras in the neighborhood. It happened on 85th Avenue and 76th Street in Woodhaven. Eyewitnesses later found Jose Arregado dead on the ground. There's a family, of course, heartbroken by his death, but happy that the person who committed this crime has been arrested.
And he was a young soul, full of energy. He was always cracking jokes. If anybody was in our position, they would want to have any help to catch this guy.
It's unclear if the person arrested knew Argudo, but some teenagers in the neighborhoods claim that there might have been some sort of dust up in a nearby pizza parlor, and that's what led to the murder. Bus riders along Madison Avenue in Midtown should soon get where they're going more quickly now.
The Department of Transportation says it will extend the double bus lanes along Madison Avenue that currently run from 42nd to 60th Street south to 23rd Street. Speaking at a news conference at a windy Madison and 23rd, Deputy Mayor for Operations Julia Kersen said it's a project that should have been done last year.
But interference from the last administration caused the agency to miss this painting season. Today, we're committing that we will move forward and complete this project this year.
DOT says buses on Madison Avenue currently move at about 4.5 miles an hour, barely more than half the citywide average. I'm Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
WABC News Time 5:09. Police in New Jersey have arrested the man they think threw a rock at a school bus last week, injuring an 8-year-old girl.
Hernando Garcia Morales has been charged with aggravated assault, endangering, a weapons count, and more. Police think the 40-year-old from Palisades Park threw the baseball-sized rock that went through the school bus window Wednesday as it exited the turnpike in Teaneck. The rock hit the girl in the head, fracturing her skull. Police think they can now link Garcia Morales to similar incidents in Bogota. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
Let's go down to Washington, where Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the Justice Department has issued a subpoena to the central bank, warning of a possible criminal indictment.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June.
Powell says the potential indictment comes from his June Senate testimony concerning renovations to the Federal Reserve office buildings. He characterized the subpoenas as the latest attempt to influence the Fed and its interest rate decisions. President Trump has repeatedly criticized Powell for the Fed not cutting interest rates as quickly as the president wants.
I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure.
Yeah, we should hear more about this a little bit later today. 5:10, let's go out to Minneapolis, where the mayor there, Jacob Fry, says there's deep mistrust of federal agencies following last week's deadly ICE shooting. During an appearance on Meet the Press yesterday, Fry called for state agencies to start being involved in the investigation into the shooting.
You know, if it was an FBI investigation that was done jointly with an investigation from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, we could have had some trust.
His comments come as protests have been held in response to the deadly shooting of 37-year-old Renee Good. The feds have claimed the victim was attempting to harm an agent with her vehicle, while Democratic leaders say the video they've seen disputes that. Here's more from Jacob Fry.
There is deep mistrust because so many of the things that we are hearing are not true.
Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem pushing back on that, accusing Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Fry of inflaming the public following that ICE shooting last week.
They've encouraged the kind of destruction and violence that we've seen in Minneapolis the last several days, and I would encourage them to grow up, get some maturity, act like people who are responsible, who want people to be safe.
Her comments come amid these large protests that have taken place, not just in Minneapolis, but across the country.
If you look at what Governor Walz has said, if you look at what Mayor Fry has said, they've extremely politicized and inappropriately talked about the situation on the ground in their city. They've inflamed the public.
Minnesota Senator Tina Smith says the Trump administration is covering up what happened in last week's deadly ICE shooting. She was on ABC's This Week.
What I mean by that is that you can see everything that they are doing is trying to shape the narrative to say what happened without any investigation.
White House border czar Tom Homan, he took to the news shows as well yesterday, says the actions of the woman Good shot by ICE agents in Minnesota could fall within the definition of domestic terrorism. Here he was on Meet the Press yesterday.
And it's illegal. Let's remember, what she did was a crime. It's illegal to interfere and impede ICE law enforcement officers. That's why we're there. There was no reason for this lady to do what she did. There's no reason to be there. If you want to protest, protest. But don't actively impede and interfere. And certainly don't drive a 4,000-pound vehicle toward an officer.
Now, Minneapolis police, they were doing battle with protesters most of the weekend. There was a slew of arrests.
That gathering began as all the other gatherings around hotels had been conducted over the last several days. Largely peaceful, mainly a noise protest that was occurring, trying to disrupt the activities at the hotel. Unfortunately, that changed last night.
And a federal investigation underway after federal immigration agents shot and injured two people in Portland last week. Correspondent Dana Griffin reports officers found them in a car, both with gunshot wounds.
The man and woman were both hospitalized, their conditions unknown. The Department of Homeland Security saying agents stopped a vehicle carrying two people affiliated with the violent Trinidad Aragua gang. DHS saying the passenger is an illegal Venezuelan immigrant involved with a recent shooting in Portland.
The two in the car, they face several charges, including interfering with a peace officer and disorderly conduct after police say they tried to run down an agent. 5:14 down to Mississippi, where 6 are dead after a gunman went on a shooting spree there over the weekend.
The sheriff's office in Clay County says a 24-year-old man, Derek Moore, faces several charges of first-degree murder after shooting and killing 6 people. His father, brother, uncle, a 7-year-old cousin, a church pastor, and the pastor's brother at 3 separate rural locations. Moore was arrested in Cedar Bluff late Friday after dozens of local Local, state, and federal officials flooded the northeast Mississippi region. Police say evidence and witnesses indicate Moore was the only shooter. He's being held without bond, and the Clay County DA has said he expects to pursue the death penalty in the case. I'm Scott Carr.
All right, in a moment, we'll go out to Ohio, where we had what we thought was a mystery in the deaths of these Ohio dentist and his wife. Well, we have some more info on that story. We'll get to it in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning. Happy Monday, Justin Alec.
Good morning to you. Happy Monday as well, Noam Layden. Start here with a recap of Wild Card Weekend around the NFL. Your final from Carolina on Saturday saw the Rams beat the Panthers 34-31. So LA advances to the divisional round against the 2-seed Chicago Bears, who beat the 7-seed Green Bay Packers 31-27 on Saturday night. And then comes Sunday, final from Jacksonville. Bills beat the Jaguars in the AFC Wild Card playoffs 27-24. So Buffalo advances to the divisional round against the 1-seed Denver Broncos. And then in Philadelphia, the Niners, they bested the Eagles 23-19 in the NFC. So San Francisco advances to the divisional round against the 1-seed Seattle Seahawks. And last night in New England, the Patriots, they were in a rough shot on the Chargers 16-3. So they'll face the winner of tonight's Steelers at Texans matchup, which is an 8:15 p.m. kickoff from Pittsburgh. Head to the hardwood here in Portland. Jalen Brunson had 26 points, and the Knicks beat the Trailblazers 123-114. OG Anunoby added 24 points. Karl Anthony Towns had 20 points and 11 rebounds, and Mikal Bridges finished with 18, 6, and 6. The Knicks had lost 5 of their previous 6 games, and they saw the return of starting forward Josh Hart, who hasn't played since injuring his ankle on Christmas Day, finished with 18 points. Up next for the Knicks, they'll play at Sacramento come Wednesday night. In Memphis, the Nets lost 103-98 to the Grizzlies. Noah Clowney and Tyrese Martin led the Nets with 17 points each, and Danny Wolf and Jalen Wilson scored 11 points each. Wolf also had 10 rebounds. Martin was 6 of 8, going 5 of 7 from the three-point range. Up next for Brooklyn, they're right back out there tonight in Dallas to tip off with the Mavericks at 8:30. And on the ice in Winnipeg, the Devils, they fell 4-3 to the Jets. Cody Glass scored twice for New Jersey. Nico Hischier also had a goal, and Jake Allen stopped 18 shots. Devils have lost 4 consecutive games for the first time since early December. Up next for them, they're at Minnesota tonight, getting set to drop an 8 p.m. puck against the Wild. Also tonight, the Rangers, they're back in action at home at the Garden. They will welcome in the Kraken for a 7 p.m. puck drop. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:18. An arrest has been made in the deaths of an Ohio dentist and his wife.
A 39-year-old man is now charged in the double murder of a Columbus couple who was found shot to death in late December. Court documents say Michael David McKee faces 2 counts of murder in the deaths of Monique Tepe and her husband Spencer. Officials say McKee is Monique's ex-husband. Detectives linked his vehicle through home surveillance and found it in Rockford, Illinois, where he is now in custody. The couple's 2 young children were found unharmed. Investigators say there were no weapons recovered and no sign of forced entry. The case remains under investigation. I'm Brady Hopkins.
Authorities in Iran have blacked out the internet, cut off phone service as protests in that country really intensified over the weekend. Correspondent Danielle Hamajan reports Iran is now largely cut off from the rest of the world.
Meantime, some flights into Iran are being canceled for now from Dubai and Turkey, but a sign of the instability in the country at the moment.
Videos of the protests show demonstrators blocking roads, setting fires in Tehran, with some crowds calling for the removal of Iranian leader Ayatollah Khomeini. The protests started late in December over the country's worsening economy and plummeting value of its currency. At this number, this is the number we've been given, by the way, 535 people killed in these protests so far.
And when the country is offline, that means getting information to the outside world in real time is a lot more difficult. Cell phone videos of protesters cannot be as easily shared, and that limits what the world can see unfolding on the streets of Iran. The trigger for these protests, the economy, which is collapsing. The Iranian currency crashing against the US dollar this week, but now the protests are rapidly growing, and it has become very much political. Protesters are chanting things like "death to the dictator." The blackout coincides with calls from abroad for more protests by Reza Pahlavi, for example. He is the son of Iran's last Shah, who was toppled back in 1979 during the Islamic Revolution. Pahlavi posting, "The eyes of the world are upon you. Take to the streets."
Now, President Trump's been watching this very closely. He says Iran is in big trouble. He said it looks as though people are taking over some cities in that country as this violent unrest grows, and the talk of him getting involved in all this.
This is something pretty incredible that's happening in Iran. It's an amazing thing to watch. They've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens. That doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts.
But there are some Republicans who don't want to get involved. One of them, Senator Rand Paul, says the U.S. should not get involved in the crackdown and the protests that continue in Iran. He was on ABC's this week. He says taking action like bombing in Iran sometimes has the opposite effect.
So when you bomb a country, then people tend to rally around their own flag. They tend to see this is a foreign country coming in and bombing us. And so I don't think it always has that effect.
The Kentucky Republicans' comments come as President Trump is reportedly weighing this range of options against Iran.
There is this sticking point of the Constitution that we don't really let presidents bomb countries just when they feel like it. They're supposed to ask the people through the Congress for permission. I don't think it's the job of the American government to be involved with every freedom movement around the world.
522. Meanwhile, the U.S. did conduct large-scale strikes against multiple ISIS targets in Syria over the weekend.
U.S. Central Command said Saturday that over 20 aircraft fired munitions in about 35 locations in Syria, and the aircraft included Jordanian F-16s. Central Command said the strikes were part of Operation Hawkeye Strike and were in retaliation for the ISIS attack on U.S. forces in Syria last month. 2 U.S. soldiers and 1 civilian interpreter were killed in that attack. I'm Lisa Carton.
And while we're overseas, President Trump says Greenland should make a deal to be taken over by the U.S. because China and Russia will make a move otherwise.
Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds.
Greenland's semi-autonomous leadership has rejected the president's push to absorb the island into the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to meet with Danish officials this week to discuss the situation. Here's more from the president.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor.
WABC News Time, 523. A Pennsylvania man is accused of stealing bodies from a cemetery. This took place last week. We're getting more details. Delaware County District Attorney Tanner Rouse says a search of 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlach's home turned up more than 100 full or partial sets of human remains, some of them 200 years old.
Some of them obviously much newer. There's one that had a pacemaker still attached to the body. So clearly that's not 200 years old. We are trying to figure out exactly what went on in that home.
Well, we can tell you it's awfully creepy. Police say Gerlach was caught last week at Mount Moriah Cemetery with a bag containing the mummified remains of 2 children. He faces hundreds of charges now. The investigators are not sure why Gerlach allegedly took these remains.
We don't know exactly what he was doing with them. Time will tell. They were in various states. Understand, some of these are 200 years old.
Yeah, he just sounds like he's a sick individual.
A lot remains to be determined at this point. They were in the basement predominantly, although, as you can imagine, with 100 remains, it was not as though they were in an isolated area.
Yeah, we were watching over the weekend as families raced to the cemetery to see if it was their loved ones' bodies who had been disturbed. It seems most of these bodies were taken from above-ground mausoleums. But why he did that, police just unsure. 525. NASA will attempt to bring 4 astronauts home home from the International Space Station on Wednesday after one crew member experienced some sort of medical emergency.
The space agency said late Friday the undocking is planned for Wednesday evening if weather conditions are clear at the splashdown site off the coast of California. The 4-person crew includes U.S. astronaut Zena Cardman and Mike Fink, plus one Japanese astronaut and a Russian cosmonaut. It will be the first time in the space station's 25-year history that a mission is cut short by a medical issue in orbit. I'm Lisa Taylor.
WABC News Time 525. Maryland Congressman Steny Hoyer retiring after more than 4 decades in the House. Hoyer is 86 years old, told colleagues on the House floor he will not seek re-election after reflecting with his family over the holidays.
I make this decision with sadness, for I love this House, an institution the framers designed to reflect the will of the American people and to serve as the guardian of their liberty and their democracy.
Hoyer received a standing ovation after his announcement last week. He was first elected in 1981. He's only actually, though, the 3rd longest serving member of Congress. Hoyer says he leaves with mixed emotions, but he believes it's time to step aside after 60 years in public service.
I'm 86 years of age, and some people say, why are you retiring? I think it's time. Frankly, if I ran again, I'd be 89 at the end of my term. I think I've retained all my faculties and vigorously represented the people of the 5th Congressional District, the state of Maryland, and my country.
Hoyer says he's received overwhelmingly positive response from people across the political spectrum.
So many Republicans, so many Democrats, so many people around the country have sent me texts, tweets, phone calls, saying that they appreciated my service and were sorry that I was leaving. And I appreciate that very much, but it's time for me.
WABC News Time 527. The attorney representing former Tampa Bay Buccaneer Antonio Brown in his second-degree attempted murder trial is asking that he be able to travel to Tampa for business. Defense attorney Mark Arglash says the former NFL player just wants to work and see his family.
Antonio Brown gets it. He knows that he's being watched. He knows that if he does anything in violation of the court's order or the law, he will be back in jail.
The judge did grant that motion to travel for later in this month. Only Brown is currently out on bond, wears an ankle monitor. He's accused of injuring another man by firing a weapon outside a Miami boxing match back in May.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, January 12th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, high 42. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 32. And then Tuesday, just a little bit warmer, sunny again, high 46. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are, 29 and clear in Pomona up in Rockland County. It's 32 and clear in Middletown over in New Jersey. And it's 30 and clear right outside our Midtown studio. Thousands of nurses at some of New York City's biggest hospitals going to go on strike in about 20 minutes now. The strike will impact operations at several of the city's major private hospitals, including Mount Sinai, Montefiore Medical Center, and New York Presbyterian Columbia Hospital. People who have loved ones in some of those hospitals are worried about what will happen. Will there be replacement nurses?
These nurses, they don't know the patient. You know, you have to work with somebody who knows you so that you'll be comfortable.
Yeah, so what we're being told is about 15,000 nurses will walk off. The dispute they have with these hospitals involves a complicated array of issues. There are staffing level issues. It's money. It's their medical plan. Here are some of the nurses who are ready to walk the picket line this morning.
We have to fight for this contract.
it's scary to know, like, the things you want can be easily taken away.
Now, the hospitals involved, they call this strike reckless, especially since the flu epidemic is really bad at this point. They vowed to do whatever they could to minimize disruptions for their patients. Here's the head of the nurses union who said they had no choice after bargaining didn't work out over the weekend.
They were missing in action too much of the day yesterday and refused to bargain late. We are willing to negotiate on salaries. They have failed to deliver meaningful counter proposal.
Now, what we're being told by the city is they've been planning for this strike, and that when they need to, and if they need to, they'll move patients from one facility to another. But we're being told, as of now, we have not seen anything that has changed the news from last night, that these nurses will walk off the job in about 16 minutes from now. Over in New Jersey, Dick Cody, the former governor there, state's longest-serving lawmaker, passed away yesterday morning. His family says he died peacefully in his sleep at his home after a brief illness. He was 79 years old. You'll remember the name. He was the Democrat that became the acting governor of New Jersey following the resignation of Jim McGreevey back in 2004. He served out the remainder of McGreevey's term, which ended in 2006. He was one of these lawmakers who was incredibly popular on both sides of the aisle, was a funeral home owner in Essex County, and just a popular guy from the time he was a state senator until his retirement. He started in 1984. He retired in 2024, was involved in all kinds of legislation, important legislation, including advancing smoke-free indoor spaces and mental health issues. Here were some of his fans speaking out about him yesterday.
His main focus over everything else was to make sure we treated people who had mental illness.
He was the go-to person that I would call whenever there was someone in my community who was struggling with mental health issues.
Now, I can tell you just personally, I had a lot of interaction with him over the years. I always loved talking to him. Great guy to talk to, made himself very accessible when he was acting governor and even after in those years. And I didn't know this, but he was one of the people instrumental in bringing the Giants from New York to New Jersey.
He was the one that was instrumental in bringing the Giants, to New Jersey and the Meadowlands.
Yes, so he died yesterday, age 79. The Cody family says they'll share information about his services in the coming days. 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Eller.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. Start of the wild card round recap across the NFL all weekend long. Starting on Saturday, your final from Carolina saw the Rams beat the Panthers 34-31 in the NFC. So LA advances to the divisional round against the 2-seed Chicago Bears, who beat the 7-seed Green Bay Packers 31-27 on Saturday night. And then in Jacksonville, the Bills beat the Jaguars 27-24 on the AFC side of things. So Buffalo advances to the divisional round against the 1-seed Denver Broncos. Then out in Philadelphia, I hated to see it, but everybody else here loved every bit of it. It was the Niners beating the Eagles 23-19 in the NFC. So San Francisco advances to the divisional round.
They never looked like they were interested in this game, the Eagles.
All season long, they never looked like they were really that interested, no.
That's true, but yesterday, even when they were winning, I was like, I just knew they weren't going to win.
Yeah.
They didn't look cohesive.
I was with you. They went up 2. They were up 19-17, and, I'm sitting at the sports bar. Everybody's all excited, thinking that a 2-point lead is going to be enough to shake them, to shake the Niners. Obviously, it wasn't, and I didn't care that George Kittle left the game. There was nothing really going for the Eagles, and at a certain point, you can't put all of that weight on the shoulders of the defense. And you hit the postseason, no matter how good your defense is, you're going to need some offensive output. And
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I'm sick of it too. No, and I'm going to have to see a lot of changes this offseason. Let me just put it that way.
I love in those moments. The great thing to turn on talk radio, sports talk radio.
Oh yeah.
So I turned, the loser that I am. I turned on the WIP after the game when I was going to bed, and it was just those Eagle fans were so angry.
Oh my God. There's nothing more nonsensical. than a post-game WIP radio show.
Yeah.
After an Eagles loss. There is nothing that makes less sense in the entire world. They're just yelling and screaming.
Oh, it was great.
They're all stupid people. They are. They are all stupid people, including me, for that matter. Last night out in New England, the Patriots, they beat the Chargers 16-3. So New England will face the winner of tonight's Steelers at Texans matchup. That's an 8:15 p.m. kickoff from Pittsburgh. Quickly here to the hardwood out in Portland. Jalen Brunson had 26, and the Knicks beat the Trailblazers 123-114. Up next for them, they'll play at Sacramento come Wednesday night. In Memphis, the Nets lost 103-98 to the Grizzlies. Up next for Brooklyn, they're right back out there tonight in Dallas to tip off with the Mavericks at 8:30. On the ice in Winnipeg, the Devils fell 4-3 to the Jets. Up next for them, they're at Minnesota tonight, getting set to drop an 8 p.m. puck against the Wild. And the Rangers are back in action tonight as well. They will get going at 7 p.m. back at home at MSG, welcoming in the Seattle Kraken. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time, 5:49. A family in Weehawken, New Jersey, asking for your help as they continue to search for their son who's been missing for more than 3 weeks now. Emilio Acosta was last seen leaving his family's home just after midnight on December 18th. His father says the family has not heard from him since.
It's been over 3 weeks and we have not heard from him since. We asked the community to take a close look at his picture, and if they see him, communicate directly with the Weehawken Police Department.
Yeah, I actually ran into one of the family members last week as they were putting up signs. They just said that they're desperate, of course. The family believes Emilio was experiencing some sort of mental health crisis at the time that he disappeared.
Our son has been living with bipolar disorder. He was under proper care, but since he's left the house, he hasn't had his medication with him.
And Weehawken police, they have been all over this. They've been following up any single lead they get since Emilio was reported missing. Surveillance footage shows him walking near a Shell gas station in Secaucus. There's another video that shows him walking near the American Dream Wall.
We tracked his movements from his house all the way to the last known location where we had found him, which was in Secaucus. We can't track him anywhere, and that's the problem, is that he hasn't used his cell phone. He hasn't contacted anybody he knows. So unfortunately, we really have come to a dead end at this point.
Yeah, if you don't use the phone or a bank card, they can't ping your location. At the last time he was seen, Emilio was wearing a cream-colored New York Yankees sweatshirt, a blue Adidas ski jacket, beige pants, and black Timberland boots. We'll put a picture of him up at WABCRadio.com. Despite the lack of leads, Emilio's family's been out there. They were out all weekend, just looking in and talking to anybody they could that may have seen their son.
The last thing we're giving up is hope. He's out there somewhere. We just need the right tip. We can bring him back home. We want him back.
Anybody who thinks they may have seen Emilio Acosta is asked to call the Weehawken Police Department. 5:51 out to Long Island, where Strong Island Animal Rescue, they were busy on Sunday getting inside this condemned house in Rocky Point that is overrun with rats. Remember we told you about this story last week? This grandmother was facing a whole bunch of charges, animal cruelty, neglect, that kind of thing, endangering the welfare of a child. She had her grandson in this house that had rats all over it. I mean, swarming the place. Well, now this group, Strong Island Animal Rescue, went in to save some of these rats because apparently some of them were domesticated rats who, are not used for scavenging for food on their own.
Once we have permission from the homeowner to go in, we can go ahead and get any more friendlies or any more rats that can be, put into homes. Strong Island will be the ones to help wrangle and catch, but we cannot take anything in at this time as we are at our max.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one to have a rat as a pet, but they were domesticated rats. As of last night, they told us they had taken out 36 rats out of this house, domesticated rats out of this home. Meanwhile, this woman, Laura Curley, she was arrested last week. She's been charged with animal cruelty, 2 counts of neglect, and endangering the welfare of a child. She pled not guilty to all those charges. 5:53. An 80-year-old woman accidentally drove her SUV into her Lake Grove, Long Island home. Then several other properties on Sunday morning. Suffolk police say the woman was attempting to straighten out her vehicle in the driveway. This was about 10:35 yesterday. She thought the vehicle was in reverse, but it was in drive, and so she struck her house. Then she put her vehicle in reverse and drove out of the driveway, across the street, ran through a fence and a deck, then drove forward again and went into a in-ground swimming pool. Thankfully, she's okay, but that's quite an adventure for a driver.
I was driving by. I was like, what is going on? Like, I mean, the garage was busted through. I thought someone maybe just drove through the garage at first. And then when I talked to the neighbors, I found out someone went through into the pool.
Yeah, kind of a crazy story. The woman who police did not name was treated for injuries, thankfully, that were not life-threatening at Stony Brook University Hospital. Nobody else, thankfully, that was around was hit by her. She made those backwards and forwards driving moments. 5:54. We're learning more now. Remember we told you the story back in late December before we went on break. This man was found dead on the scaffolding outside of a NYC building in Marble Hill up in the Bronx. This was December 21st. And now finally family members are identifying who he is. Now we don't know what happened to him. His body was found in the scaffolding of the building. It's 38-year-old Shamel Thompson. Now over the weekend, they honored his legacy with a memorial service outside the building where he lived. They lit candles to honor him right at the front door of this NYC building where his body was found.
It was just a tragedy all around, whatever assumptions people make. But either way, someone's gone, they're not here, and a community's grieving. He spoke to everyone. He carried groceries for the, elderly people in the community. And again, he seemed to just be one of one, and I'm proud to say he was my brother.
Now, some of the family members implied that he may have had some issues with drugs. We could not confirm that. As of the weekend, the NYPD still wasn't saying how he ended up in the scaffolding or what happened to him while he died. They said they would release more information when they had it. WABC News Time. Police in Queens looking for a pair of thugs with a taste for high-end coats and sneakers.
The NYPD says the pair struck at least half a dozen times during a week-long crime spree in Corona and Elmhurst last month. In each incident, they displayed a knife and took North Face jackets, fancy sneakers, and other valuables. The Daily News reports the victims range in age from 13 to 21. Cops have released surveillance images of the pair and are asking anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. I'm Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
Ooh, sorry about that, Larry. WABC News Time 5:56, and we'll end with this story. Mayor Mamdani wants to make it easier for New Yorkers who just have to go.
During a news conference on Saturday, Mamdani announced a pilot program to install more public restrooms across the city.
In the greatest city in the world, you should not have to spend $9 to buy a coffee just to be able to find a little relief. And I've spoken about my desire to make our city more affordable so that dignity no longer feels so remote and inaccessible.
He was joined by City Council Speaker Julie Menon, and the pair signed a request for proposals, or RFP, to fund the $4 million program that would bring 20 to 30 new bathrooms across the 5 boroughs. I'm Liz Ranabali for 77 WABC News.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder, what the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.